So he does construction. He's
Okay.
a skill. He's a master builder.
Builder.
But in my opinion, he should have an empire in New Orleans. But because of circumstances,
Yeah.
he takes guys from the hood.
Right.
They go to work for the day, but he can build a house from scratch. He can build a car from scratch, like it's with his hands, you know. So,
I
um,
love that, by the way.
yeah.
I love a handyman. I'm like, I
Well,
need
that's
something.
yeah, and I,
I
I
need
don't
that.
think he's ever had a problem finding a woman, because
I need
You're listening to My Father Used to Say, live with Lady Bosé.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Lady Bosé, back with another episode of My Father Used to Say. And this is episode number 6. Believe it or not, we are rocking. We are doing good. I hope you're tuning in every week. And I have here the wonderful, not so hard, not so heavy, but definitely Mr. Easy with me today. And I can't wait to speak to him. I've known him for some time now, and it has been an honor to be in your presence time and time again. I can't wait for him to tell us his story and for him to share, what has created such a success in who he is as a man of valor, because I see you as that. He would always honor the queen in me, and I would always honor the king in him. How are you doing, brother?
first of all, thank you for that introduction. You are a queen, and I've
Thank you.
always seen you that way. So it's never
Thank
been
you.
hard to treat you as such. So I'm honored to be here. I'm
Thank you.
excited. I didn't know you were already at episode 6,
I am.
so I'm excited to get the vibes.
I've
Nice.
always, like I said, had an interest in talking to you outside of the workplace. We've worked together on music. I mean, we've done so much, but one of the things that's always intrigued me about you and why I asked if you could interview with me was that there was always a level of calm to you
Mm,
in the midst of chaos.
mm.
And you've seen me lose it a few times. And I know I seem sweet, y'all, but I have that side, and he's been
We all
able
do.
to
We all do.
he's been able to calm it down. Amen. For you, you've been able to maintain in so many levels, and I know that there are moments that maybe people don't see
Hmm.
that's difficult for you. Let's start here. How has it been working in the school system and
Oh,
doing music?
mm,
Because COVID hit,
yeah.
changed the course of education, changed the course of the way that we even produce ourselves and get our music out there.
Hmm.
I have so many thoughts on it, but I'm so happy to just get into your mind and see what you think about it.
Yeah, that's a great thought to ponder. Two different worlds, most definitely, but COVID ravaged both. So if we're gonna talk education, um, COVID really made everybody have to step back and analyze the systems that worked and didn't work for our
Mm,
youth,
yeah,
and specifically for Black youth, because that's where I find my greatest usefulness and my passion. So just being able to see, once students had to go virtual, once the school building wasn't open, the question was, have we been educating along the way? And to me, it was a resounding no.
yeah.
We've been playing school, and then when the
Woo.
sandbox closes, education stopped. But if we had been fostering and nurturing curious individuals,
Yeah,
then they would have been coming to get fed knowledge regardless of the platform.
that's
But
right.
that's not what's going on. Like we're training these kids to be conformist, and we're training them to follow the status quo.
Yeah.
And for our students, that means going to some type of field of service, going to some type of servitude, and don't make the amount of money that's going to generate generational wealth. And so that's the cycle that we're on. So when the schools shut down, there wasn't like a curiosity or a clamoring for knowledge,
Yeah. Do you
so they
think
disconnected.
do you think that the educational system was dated?
It
like
is dated. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exposed it.
Yeah.
Because because what I noticed was while certain colleges were catching on, like, okay, it's IT, you know, era.
Mm-hmm.
We're still teaching, standards that don't fit these children today because, believe it or not, even though there are a lot of pushbacks from our children, I do feel that it's because they see more than we saw back then. They're open, they're exposed to more.
And
Social
we want to act
media
like they're not.
and yeah, social media and all these other things. They're learning about things that we're like, how dare you learn that at 9? How
Right.
dare you know about that at 10? And it sucks, but we created that.
Yeah.
Our generation created new levels of technology. And so speak to that with new levels of technology in the educational system. Where do we need to find the balance for them so that they don't go off on the deep end and completely ignore the fact that they're still being raised by, you know, teachers that can really instill great wisdom in them,
Yeah.
because right now I do feel like the majority, I wouldn't say all, have a really, really hard time trusting teachers and even parents at times,
Yeah.
Talk to that. Speak on that.
I mean,
It's a lot. I
it
know
is.
I'm
It's
unpacking
loaded.
so much,
It's loaded.
but we've shared this before.
Yeah.
So
Well, to me, K through 12 doesn't work. Like I work in it, and some days I feel complicit, and I feel like when MLK said, "Have I brought my people into a burning building?" Like, so I go to work sometimes and I feel very fed and nourished, and then other days I feel like I have blood on my hands because I'm here supporting a system that doesn't work. And I'm not talking about necessarily a school.
yeah,
I'm talking about the idea that children should be formed through a K through 12 system when that's not how they're learning and that's not how they're being cared for at home. So it's skills, it's ability, it's the ability to hold a conversation, to be curious about new information that should move you along in your progression. There shouldn't be a first grade, second grade, third grade. Like, somebody who could be traditionally third grade could be in the same room with somebody who's traditionally fifth grade, and they're getting what they need.
Oh, I like how you're thinking. When you speak to, different levels of children, even though they're not fit in for that grade, like a fifth grader may really actually be a third grader, but they're still, getting what they need for their level of learning.
Exactly.
And rather than ostracize them for that, or
You celebrate them
you
for
celebrate for the
wins,
little.
the growth.
Yeah, because when you look at autism, right, you don't say, "Oh, why do you learn like that?" and then you beat them up for it. You realize that is a learning disability, but what about the learning abilities?
Right.
I don't feel like that's celebrated. They always used to tell me, "Oh, Sade could be in a gifted program." I'm like, "Well, where's your gifted program? We don't have one in the school."
That's what that used to be there. So even for a student that's quote unquote behind or not advanced, they should be in a room where they feel like they're advanced, where they feel like they're gifted.
Right.
And that depends on the curriculum, the teacher, like the motivation, the energy they're getting from the class. And to your point, these days kids are needing to learn how to interact with the world.
That's true.
The school system in America was designed around being able to interact with the farm, and then it was around being able to interact with the factory. And even when at its most advanced, it was how to interact with your neighborhood. But these kids have the world in their palm. We all do. So now they need to
they're
figure
not
out how to
impressed.
interact with the world.
Right, because they're not impressed by
Right.
the mundane or by the.
Sitting at the desk and sitting still and shutting up for 6 or 7 hours is not preparing them for what this world is now.
Right, right.
Like students need to be able to do what we're doing right now.
Right, right.
So if I'm telling you sit
Very
down and shut up,
interactive, yeah.
what you gonna do when this happens?
Yeah.
When that happens?
Right, right.
And
You're
that's
right
what
about it.
we're not fostering. We still operating on the outdated idea of what they need to do when they leave the building. But,
Do you think that some of these new age schools that are actually treating and setting up children like that? I actually visited one shortly after I had left. And I found that their level was so beyond me that I had to take a minute to think about what they were doing, whether this was beneficial or not. And as I left the school, I was like, wow, they, our culture talking about American society,
Mm-hmm.
would say, "Oh, these people aren't, giving them the rigor they need or whatever." But these kids will come into classroom and they would say, "What are we doing today, kids?" And my African roots are like, "What do you mean what we doing today? Tell them kids what we doing today,
Right.
and sit down." But I found out that they were more well behaved. It's just a different society. It's a different time. I think that the progression was that they were trying to teach them respect will be given to you if you give it. So, and it was a very mutual thing. It wasn't like a authoritative thing.
Right.
Here are the rules. We adhere the rules. Here's how you're going to learn as you want to learn. We have the teachers in the building to be able to cater to that. So they would literally go to the classrooms that today I feel like learning more about this, or and
I
they
heard
would
about these places.
right, and to the point where they now were like, "Oh, okay, this person takes an interest to art. This person takes an
They
interest
keep
to
coming over here.
yes."
Yeah.
And so they would now tell them all this is good, and then they will say, "Here's why math will be good for you to learn concerning this." So they focus it on their interests. And I love that because a kid will be more prone to learn another course
Yeah.
if they can relate it to what they like.
Yeah. Absolutely. How big were the class sizes?
5 to 6.
Right.
I
That's what I was gonna
mean-
say. It's very hard to do that with 30 people and 30 kids deciding where they want to go.
And it's hard when, there aren't enough of these types of educational systems. As you
Right.
said, it kind of blocks you.
Yeah. Intentionally though, it's not there on purpose. So.
Yeah, speak to that. The
I mean, it's
intention.
the
going
it's
back
the
in.
systematic
Right.
process of breeding, workers
Yeah.
and followers. The thinkers, the radicals, the creatives. There's little room for them in the rich man's cog. You know what I'm saying? So we are, us as creatives, us as radicals, like we're always, it feels like and it looks like we're always like button heads, pissing somebody off,
Ooh,
breaking
I know
the
I
rules.
pissed some people off. They gonna stand. They gonna stand my ideas, okay?
But
Or-
you have, I ain't gonna say had, you have
Yeah.
human beings singing from the gut of their stomach
Yeah.
in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had kids that were excited about doing it. They would get together and put the programs on and
That couldn't speak in class, but they could sing
Right.
their behinds off.
run to you.
Yeah.
And even the ones who were resistant to new knowledge found something in your classes that captivated them, whether it was the songwriting or the art of performance. These are things that it's almost like people who are the traditionalist guy. They have to just get out the way,
Right.
right? Because this is something else that's going on here.
Right.
It's spiritual, So
Ooh.
you gotta, and that's
That's why we've always rocked together.
spirituality,
You already know.
American education.
Don't quite mix.
They don't quite mix. We just had talks in a staff meeting the other day about teachers dealing with behavioral issues and how it impacts what we go home, how much energy we have when we leave, and how exhausted we are, or how depleted we are if behavior issues are not addressed consistently and with enough love and force.
Yeah.
So restorative is a plus, but the consistency of what happens is the issue, and also having these kids really reflect. Like, you can't discipline a kid and they haven't written something, spoken something, expressed something that
Put
shows
it in
I've
front.
reflected on what I
Yeah.
did, how it affected people.
Right.
If I continue to do it, what happens? Like, that's the part that to me is a little,
Yeah. It's hard to
difficult.
wrap that.
But you're right though. As a fine arts teacher, how can you operate and teach students the art of creation while
under
you're in a
stress.
frenzied, distressed state?
I love to hear stories about people's upbringing. And I love to hear how whatever it was that you experienced, how it shaped your mindset on how you also operate. Because I had to start with education because a lot of it is kind of skewed, but teachers are made to feel as though everything is left to us, including their behavior and their like respect level and all that. We have to find a way to teach that
Right.
in the middle of teaching the craft. And you know, even if they're in a place of danger and they're starting to like want to fight, like what's your fight or flight mode like, and is it healthy enough, or are you, like you said, dealing with something internally and then trying to come to work and deal on the moment that you know, is grace given to that teacher, you know? And I'll say this, for my interest of getting to know each person I interview, it's really to find out the foundation of how you were able to manage stress level. Because I had a great upbringing in terms of like, you know, you're going to be patient about this, you're going to be patient about that. But some people had to learn it by force or was taught by other people. I was taught by my father, you know. Speak to that. Speak to your upbringing. Tell me a little bit about, or a lot about, how you grew up.
Yeah. So I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I grew up in, well, I guess what some people would consider the hoods of New Orleans, right? My mom was from Fisher Projects, and my family, some well known, you know what I'm saying, in the street. So it's like I saw that, and my mom came from that, and my father was from Mississippi, but they found each other in the Ninth Ward in New Orleans, and weren't together very long, right? So, I mean, months after I was born, I would imagine. I don't even know, but I didn't grow up with my dad at all. Like, I have no memory of them ever being in the same place. So, the relationship with him had to be figured out over time. That's a whole nother interview of time. But in my 20s, when I really needed him during a humbling season of mine, he was there. So that allowed us to reconnect as men.
After 20 years.
Yeah, I was probably about 26, maybe 27, and I was resetting. And so he does construction. He's a master builder. But in my opinion, he should have an empire in New Orleans. But because of circumstances, he takes guys from the hood.
Right.
They go to work for the day, but he can build a house from scratch. He can build a car from scratch, like it's with his hands, you know. So.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
I love a handyman. I'm like, I need something.
Yeah. And I don't think he's ever had a problem finding a woman.
I need. Okay, you already see what I already was jumping into that. Like, hey, you know. Yeah. But let me ask you, who found who? Like, how did that come about? And I know that's.
You mean with me and him?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I had to hit him because I was like, I'm trying to reset. I had been torn and I had been tearing up myself and my family with my behaviors, you know, being destructive. And so it was time for me to reset. If I was going to make it to the next phase, I realized I have to remove myself from certain activities and environments.
Yeah.
So I hit him and I said, can I come, you know, work construction with you? It's nothing. I wasn't trained that way.
Right.
But he kicked the guy off his team who was trained.
Yeah.
So I could have that spot.
Wow, immediately.
It was only a couple of $100 a week, but that was my lesson. That's what God needed me to go through.
Right.
So I get down there for a few months, you know. I stay with him. I stay on his couch. And I get up at 5 o'clock every morning and go. And this was a little bit after Katrina, so I'm under houses, on top of houses, doing all kinds of stuff that I don't know how to do.
Wow.
So I'm the people having to be patient with me, you know. And I know some of them were talking to my dad, like, why would you? And they'd be, oh no, that's his son.
Right.
And so he was patient with me, and even when he paid me on Friday, he would take me, he would pay me, and then he would like, we're going straight down to the spot, and you're gonna send your girl some money. Like he even if it's not a lot, she needs to see you consistently coming out of that world where you destructive with your behavior and irresponsible with your money, you know?
Right.
So even though me and him didn't have the strongest bond, when I needed him on some man
stuff,
I don't know if I can curse on him, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was there to deliver that particular lesson that I needed.
Yeah.
So from there, we've been able to build, and still don't talk that often because I guess it's just sometimes you pass that point where it's like, Daddy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you had.
It's pops. It's OG. It's
yeah.
It's my guy. You know what I'm saying? So So it's been cool since then, but it took some work. It took humility on both our
both
parts,
sides. Yeah.
But to your point, my mom on the other side of that,
Yes,
growing
please speak
up,
on that. Right.
she always had me around older people.
Mm-hmm.
She was really big on honoring the elderly and the elders.
Mama
I mean, those are
Dukes.
words that she used. I heard that every day. Elders, elderly, um, sisters, brothers. You know what I'm saying? She was really big on that. And my mom was a single mother who also took on some of my cousins throughout our journey. So I always had other people around, like cousins who became siblings. And to this day, I got a sister who's my cousin, but that's my sister. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So as a single mother who was working very hard and still trying to make sure we respected her in the neighborhood. Like we
Yeah.
would have wine, like we call them winos back in the day, but we would have, guys who were alcoholics. We would have women who were on dope, and she would still make me call Mr. Carl. The other day she said,
Wow.
I forgot to tell you Mr. Carl passed.
Oh.
And it's just like, I remember this guy being out of it every day, riding his bike around, or I remember guys on the corner who would just be hanging, but I had to call him Mr. or Miss. And that, to me, that's what a lot of the youth are missing today. Love Facing was going off on that the other day. Just she's like, these kids walk through the hallway and say any kind of words out loud,
Yeah.
in front you, to you, around you. You're like, hey.
Yeah. Have
I'm
some
standing
level
right
of,
here.
yeah,
Have
have a
some-
level of
I'm not telling you
respect.
can't use those words, but know where you're doing it. And I
Yeah.
tell my students that all the time. I'm like, it's time and place. That's the
Yeah.
maturity of it.
That's all right. I tell my daughter that
Yeah.
too.
But
Yeah.
my mom definitely was like, you're going to know how to speak, when to speak. And then I guess the culture of New Orleans, like, you don't turn up where I grew up unless you're ready to go all the way there.
Right.
So I have a calmness about me because I know that if I'm not ready to escalate it all the way, I should probably chill. Yeah, if we're not about to tear this whole place up, then it's gonna be okay.
And I could see it in your eyes. Don't mess with Easy. That's why. Hey, that's why he telling you who he is. Just chill out, man, because you don't want none.
Yeah, you're
This
gonna have to make a choice.
This smoke is never ending. You should just go ahead and just easy. I love it. I love it. And I think because your mother and speaking to, that aspect of it, she had people around you that were not only elderly, but required respect and taught you the respect aspect of being around people older than you.
And they had stories.
Woo! I was coming there. It kind of propelled you to listen to how they came up, so that you would have not just knowledge but wisdom coming up.
Yeah,
Because-
the process.
Right.
Understand that everything is a process.
What
Your
would the-
joy and your pain is a process.
Yes. What would your joy and your pain is what?
A process. So if I'm talking to somebody who's been out there, and they've been through a lot, their story is, it started here, then this happened, and this happened, this happened. If somebody is joyful and they've overcome and they're successful, this happened and this happened. So I'm a process person. I take a lot of interest in like
Analyzing.
solitude and in knowing that all of this is a process. All of it.
Quiet space.
All the
Yeah.
stuff me and you talking about, like your journey. It's all a process that's taking you somewhere, and your story is and will always be such a blessing to somebody.
I love it. My joy and my pain, they are both processes. And so, what that said to me was that you can't escape life. Because, if you turn this way, it's a process. If you turn this way, it's a process. So, and you can't chicken out from life.
Sometimes life
at the
get
end
heavy.
because on the end of each of those processes, it actually is lighter.
Yeah.
It's like from level to level and level. That's why when I wrote Wonder, I said leveling up is not an issue, not anymore for me, because I understand the wonder of who I am.
The wonder of who I am.
Yeah, man, you already know. It took a long time, And my question to you is, do you think that the male mentors that you had before your father came around, if you hadn't have had the male mentors, there wouldn't have been, as much of a stability to kind of have an idea, even if it was a little, of how to be.
I wish I had had more.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, because I had to hit my head a lot coming out of my teenage years and in my early 20s because I just did not understand the role of the man in the home. I didn't understand the role of the man in the world. And I definitely didn't understand the role of the black man in the community. Those are things that it was mentors who grabbed me along the way as a in my 20s, and even into my 30s, like sitting and building with folks who had mastered manhood, who had mastered family. You know what I'm saying? Like these are very, very high levels of skill that's required for a man to carry himself the right way. And so my mom would put me around like they were people, rather it was spiritual connections or neighborhood connections. She would try to like, well, you gonna go by so and so house while I'm at work, boom, boom, boom. But these men had children of their own, and they try to be cool. Yeah, come on over. But they don't.
You could feel.
And it wasn't purpose on purpose. You only have so much energy in the day. You only have so much wisdom. You only have so much discipline. You only have so much game to give. Like, and you got your own son or daughter or and it was always like it was big families, So it was like, I'm over here. I'm not in the street. I'm safe. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
But they really weren't taking me under their wing and able to show me. And because I'm not there when they wake up and when they go to bed, I'm also not seeing how this man is a father or a husband. And then sometimes I would see the other side where the man is being a bad husband, a bad father. And so I'm like, what am I supposed to take from this? Because you'll start to believe that that's a heavy-handedness is the way you're supposed to be, and that's not always what it's supposed to be. There's times for a man to be that, but most times a man's role is to be humble and serving and wise.
Yeah.
I wish I had more because I feel like I would have saved myself a whole lot of tears. I wouldn't have hurt people I hurt.
Yeah.
But God did bring those folks into my life. I feel like at the right times to deliver me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So I try to be there for younger people now. Like, this is what manhood is.
Come on.
It's the posturing and the tough guy, and the playing the women. Like that's not manhood. That's actually childishness. That's actually going to lead to a lot of headache for you. It's going to lead to a lot of heartache. You're going to carry guilt, and you're going to make decisions because you feel guilty. So I try to impart that now, but I really didn't have a man telling, laying those lessons down.
That's why I'm saying wow, because I always thought you had, all that around you. But then this speaks to another level of upbringing,
So let me give credit where credit is due. First of all, my mom made sure that the good book was good.
That's where I was going.
You know what I'm saying? And like you said, when you start talking God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Yah, his presence was there. Her presence was there. You know what I'm saying? So my mom did that for all of the conversations I have with her now about what didn't happen and what did happen. She made sure that was there. And as a single mother, I feel like she struggled with emotional and mental health for all of us to stay in what we needed to stay, because that was just a lot for a woman to do alone. But she always made sure I understood, if we're gonna boil it down to 10 commandments, you know what I'm saying? So she didn't have a guy who grew up, left her house and killed and stole and all of these things. But that's basic. She taught me basic I guess righteous fundamentals. And so it went a long way. It's just that having a man in your home, or a man that you go to every day, even if not in your home, but as a mentor or older man who you go and you sit with every day, it's a little bit different, because God is the relationship you build with God. If it's not from like in my opinion, my spiritual journey again is a whole nother interview, but if it's not built on an authentic desire to know God and build a relationship with Him, then it's gonna get weak along the way. So as a kid, I feel like I was being kind of, You do it because it's gonna make your parents happy. You're gonna
Yeah,
do it because
yeah,
you're gonna get a pat on the back. You're gonna do it because you don't want to get a whooping. Like, but then when you no longer have to do it,
You
where
gonna
you at
slip
with
a
that
little bit.
relationship?
But you know what's good about this though, is that she's still instilled in you a spiritual father, because it says that you shall honor your mother and father, so that your days will be what? Long. So you did your best to honor her when you were under her roof. And yeah, you may have fell, but it says that if you bring a child up in the way that they should go, when they become older, they won't depart from that.
Right.
So they might get lost in it, but they will find their way back.
That's why I try to tell her all
Right.
the time. She, because
Right.
she looks sometimes and she be like, man, she
Yeah.
look at me and she look at stuff I've been through and done, and since I have a little one now, so she came from New Orleans to help and raise him, so I see her with him, and it's just she's much. I remember a woman turned up. You know what I'm saying? Like
My mom too.
I'm like, Mom, you don't have to holler at, you don't have to scream right now. Like I
Oh,
hear
my
you.
mom, I'd be like, Mom, why you so loud? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
just
and then she'd be
tell-
like, I'm not loud, and I'd be like, really, Mom? Okay, I love you too.
Yep. Yep.
But it's because that love for women is a different type of love, and that's why I believe God gave me the vision for my father used to say, because there are new fathers, there are older fathers. And what has always reigned true, even in the spiritual father sense, is that when a manly man speaks into the existence of the world, into another being or their seed, it doesn't have a lot of words. They don't have a lot of words for you. It's usually patience is key. And then you like, I want to be patient
hit
right
you
now.
with the 3-word
You know what I'm saying?
affirmation.
Yeah, and you be sitting there as a child like, what? And then the mom, what they do is they come in and they say what he was trying to say is, and it's a 30-minute conversation. So our love is very different, because we can take from something like that, strong and direct, as a woman, because as a child or as a girl, you can't. You actually want that explanation, because you have your mind going at 1,000,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
My dad was like, you can't eat that mango. You might not get it all year. I would remember things like that. And I'd be like, I'm not a bad child. What are you talking about? I can't eat the mango. I want to eat the mango.
Yeah.
And later on, I found out that as much as I love mangoes, I can wait. Literally, I love mangoes. I can eat mango every day. But because he disciplined me as a child to wait on everything, Christmas Day, we're not opening the presents now. We'll open them when I'm ready. Patience is key. All the way till I didn't even care. I was 18, 19, came home from college.
Yeah.
It's Christmas Day. My brother's like, Dad, can we open the presents now? I'm just walking past the tree. I've mastered patience in such
Pops gave you that.
man.
Yeah.
But as a child, you don't even have a clue what's going on. So
You have no idea.
man, so that's why I said you just wow me sometimes when I think about your disposition, your countenance. I'm sure you like in the car headed home, and you're like, ah! I'm sure you're like, and then you're like, okay, whew, let me drive home. But and I'm sure there are moments that are bitterly painful, but man, however she instilled in you, and whatever you saw that you didn't like in the male homes and that you thought was pretty cool but you needed more of, that was enough for you.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it was enough for you, because only people that are spiritual, intact to their soul, intact to their creativity, can recognize you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I wouldn't create what I create, how I created, if my journey was any different. And that's the part I do know,
Right.
about the joy and pain process, is like how I write, how I spit, how I do a lesson plan, how I communicate with people. All that wouldn't have happened if I had all the perfect scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So he was your father along the way for sure. Spiritual father, and then later on, father coming into your life to help you in the moment, as you called it. What did you call it? You said it was reset.
Reset, humble and season, all of that. See what you're doing. I see what you're doing now, though, because you
Yeah.
said my father used to say, but at the end of the day, you talking about physical, but you talking spiritual too, though.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I love the way you. I didn't even feel that coming on. This is not something that you. I'm gonna have a spiritual conversation with you about God. You know, but it happened though because it has to happen if it's being real in somebody's life.
Right. Right. You were speaking about the way you write.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your musical journey and how some of the lack thereof and some of the beauty of your mother being able to instill in you those spiritual wisdoms and knowledge early on, how those cater to your writing ability as a lyricist.
So my my mom was real big on that. Like, what's that word mean? Go get the dictionary. Yeah, I had to look it up.
Wow.
When I got in trouble, I had to hold the dictionary over my head, on my knees in the corner. Like
Did
the
she
dictionary.
literally hit you with the dictionary?
No, she made me
Oh.
hold it up to my.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
The heavy
Arms start
ones.
getting
Oh yeah.
the big under what they call it, unabridged.
Yeah, the encyclopedia type,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know.
The ones where you have the big
Wow.
cutout tab where the letters start because there's so many of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
those. So dictionaries was big. Like I said, the Bible was big. My mom groomed me to. Um, she would always tell me, "Look a man in his eye when you're talking. Look a person.
I
in the
know
face.
that about
Don't hold
you.
your head down.
Yeah.
Don't. There's no man, no matter how big or small, that you should ever be afraid to address." So like that, she put that in me. I would get in trouble if like she would like, "Why was your head down when you were talking to so and so?" Now that's so different than probably because I grew up in New Orleans. So you talking about, direct descendants of plantations. You know, so I was talking to my students about this the other day. There was a time when you'll get beat up, possibly killed for looking a white man in his face, or looking at a white woman and she lying, said that man winked at me or something. Now you strung up on the tree. So I could see where my mom was getting that from, but she was also trying to instill that in me because she wanted me to always be able to, like, to your point, share the spiritual journey and pass the spiritual word on.
Right.
So that part was there. So I get that. The writing, I don't know. Part of me believes that writers, there's no class, there's no workshop that's gonna make somebody a writer. There's workshops to refine, to challenge, make you trigger some creative muscle or whatever. But the writers are the writers. I'm an English teacher, so I struggle with that sometimes. Like, you want me to assess these students, and some of them are not going to be writers. They weren't born writers.
Right.
They were born something else. And then the ones who are born, it's very obvious, it's very evident. And they get all the hundreds, and they can do everything. You got to show them one time how to do it, and they
just
off
got
to the
it.
races, And so writing was always like that for me. Like, it was, math is not.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
writing was like, get my thoughts on paper,
Right.
spit them in the mic, whatever. Like, I could do that from an early age. So that's what it was.
What age would you say, like, music, like you knew, like, I got some flow, like, I'm just like FYI.
What a poetry and a spoken word part came of 16, 17, maybe even a little bit earlier. I remember it was a competition at school, and I wrote a poem about Frederick Douglass, I want to say. And I got like second, third place, whatever it was. But that's when I knew, excuse me, the poetry was there. So then I went from writing that to discovering, and at this time, let's say 97, 98, 99, I was living in Texas at this time, and there wasn't like a huge movement of spoken word spots. So the spots I found were OGs, like older guys who got together with they had their glasses on, their books.
Again, being around older.
Yeah, and they would sit back there, move their book back, they read their poetry. And they'd be like, "What you got, young buck?" You know what I'm saying? And I read whatever I had. But I took my knowledge from hanging with those OGs, And then I started doing open mics that drew younger crowd, hip hop element. And around the same time, slam was starting to jump off this
Okay.
the idea of competitive poetry.
Yeah.
So I was right there in the movement of like, and Love Jones came out. Those were the two big things that
Yeah.
like pushed that movement and pushed my influence. And it was San Antonio at that time. Like, so I wanted to make an open mic spot that had Love Jones vibes, but I also wanted to get my pen sharp enough to compete with slam poets. So I was in like the more like the white poetry spots because that's who was doing a lot of the slamming.
Yeah.
So I'm competing with them, and of course San Antonio, a lot of Chicano influence. There were a lot of beautiful like Mexican brothers and sisters that I got to like build with, and we would get together and spar with scorecards and at the end of the night who wins this bet. And then for my community, for my black people, it was more like come in, the incense is lit, the spirits are being passed around. We're gonna drink if you want to do that. We're gonna smoke if you want to do that.
Right.
Boom, you get up here and you just there's no pressure, there's no scorecard, you just spit.
Yeah.
So I was hosting that, and that got me into the world of like saying my stuff out loud and people appreciating it. So I did some books on my own, like independent, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, like I was watching Master P work, with the selling music out the trunk.
Wow.
So I was gonna sell my poetry out the trunk. Same idea, and it was enough that it generated enough of a income and a buzz where I gained popularity and then before you know it, any poetry thing I did was packed out.
I love it.
And then I started to incorporate a bass player and a drummer here and there,
Come on.
So then that started I was like, okay, so not just the written, that I went to spoken word, started going to rap.
Yeah.
And then I got a partner of mine who was around the same time. He wasn't in the spoken word. He was more into the rap scene, and he was from San Antonio, east side of San Antonio. So his background was, we get loaded and we go in the corner, we freestyle, or we go in the house, or we sit in the car, 5 or 6 guys in the car, we put a beat on and we just freestyle and rap all night.
Wow.
So that world, what I was doing, we created a group called Mojo. And then from there, my partner who came up rapping, I didn't know he could sing, but because we couldn't find nobody to sing the hooks, he ended up singing the hooks.
Yeah.
Before
That's
you
who
knew
I
it,
met, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
I miss him.
Yeah. So so that's what happened. So our group ended up being 2 guys who could rap, 1 guy that was really good with poetry and putting the words together, in a certain way, and then another brother who rapped but who could put melodies and he understood chordal structures and things like that. And that's what made what we did. And word got around. Before you knew it, it was popular in Texas. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad, people from his record label had caught wind that we were doing, so they said, "Come to our Christmas party."
That's so
I guess
dope.
2005 maybe.
Yeah.
The Christmas party 2005, and they had us be the band for the Christmas party.
That is so amazing.
And before we could finish our set, he stood up like, "Sign him." He had his little Solange's, I want to say Solange son in his arms. Okay. He stood up, was like, sign him, we doing this. And then he signed us, he did. He repackaged our independent album, put us on the road. We toured extensively.
Wow.
The biggest tour we did probably was opening for Brian McKnight. It was Brian McKnight, Joe, Ruben Studdard, Sunshine Anderson, who was on our label mate. And we would, our band would be Sunshine's band and our band. We would go do our single, and then we would rap some stuff with Sunshine, and we would get out the way, but we was less than we was earning our stripes.
Yeah.
And then from there we ended up doing college tours where it was more like, our own sets and all these little towns, Ithaca, New York, and Worcester, Ohio, and you know what I'm saying? You just all these little nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I love that you toured. I never knew that. You see all the gems that my friends hide from me. We just greet each other and that's it. But this is why you talk to people. This is why you get to know people and also give space to let them share their story.
Right.
Because I'm so joyful inside right now just hearing you speak about all these great things that you've done that really, when you experience something like Beyonce Knowles, I remember I met him when I was in Boston. He came to visit the school and I just sat there and have a conversation at the side of the stage with him for 30 minutes. He's telling me about all types of things, and of course, when you meet people that are of this type of caliber, they meet so many people, they're not going to remember, but because they're full of so much knowledge on how to succeed. It just pours out of them like water.
Yeah.
He was sharing with me some real gems. And one of the things he told me, he said, do not make it because you want to make money. He said, make it because you have something real to share. He was like, if you're not authentic to it, it won't last. And I've had that in my heart. I don't talk about it much because it just is one of those, like, I sat down with him and just talking at the edge of the stage after he gave a presentation to everybody.
Yeah. And that's what he's doing a lot now is the presentations and teaching, you know.
Yeah. But that's so cool that you experienced that, toured. You were able to be in his presence, and he saw something in you guys. And you know, sometimes it takes eons for somebody to really see, you know. So I'm happy that you guys developed that. Speak to how it has been over the last few years since then.
With the music. So, to your point, very wise businessman, you know, and I think that at some point he wanted us to. I wanted, if I remember this correctly, he wanted us to add. He had a bunch of groups. Like he was like training, getting ready. But he had one group called Pop Star, and it was these three girls who he was gonna make them into pop star. But he wanted to take one of them and put them in our band. Almost like a Black Eyed Peas type of thing. And we were like, but that's not the kind of music we make. Like we make very like soulful, bluesy, whatever. Like we don't do pop music or whatever. And me and my partner talk about this all the time. Like if we had just took the girl and did this, boom, I don't know where we would be. But at the same time, I think that we stayed true to what we believed in, how we felt, and he honored it. When we said, "Nah, we don't want to do that. We'd rather just get out the deal if that's what it's about." He let us go. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a thing. So we left that. We made another album with some investors out of Baltimore, and then after that, me and my brother took a break to try to regroup. You know, he had some kids and needed to be a better father.
Right.
I needed to figure out what's going on in my family life, and that was around that time when I told you I had to reset humbling season.
Okay.
See how it's all lining up, and that's what. So in that season of getting my mind right, I had to really figure out what I was going to do to show and be stable.
Yeah.
Be creative, but not be on the road all the time. Not have 1 year where I make $100,000 and another year when I make $20,000. You know what I'm saying? So I had to figure that out. So I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna figure out something in college.
Right.
So I knew I loved to write. I knew I liked to read. I knew I liked like literature and like I could put words to this. I'm gonna be an English major. I'm gonna see what that's about. And in that process, I ended up like doing some internships at schools and stuff. And I said, oh, I can get in front of my people and try to like share some of my, not just writing skills, but like my life journey with young Black people. And so that's when I really got on my ground and said, okay, I'm gonna do this school thing. I'm gonna commit to it. I'm gonna get a degree. And that led me down that path. During that time, a friend of mine who was booking Mojo for shows, who was also a professor of Mexican American studies and African American studies for that matter, he said, I want you to be on my album. So I did some music with him, and we just stayed in touch. And that became, hey, we should do some more music. That's a group that I have called Third Root. Okay. And that's where that started. So at this time when my mind was,
trying to see how it got started.
Yeah. So when that time when I'm switching from a very like more soulful, just whatever we was going through that day, make a song about, I was getting into education, which was every day this deep critical thought about who I am and how I want to teach and all of this stuff. He came with his influence. And the music reflected that. I always said that the best hip hop is about like what's going on with you at the time. So I'm not one of them guys who's gonna rap about something I'm not doing, you know. So if I'm in school and I'm deep in these books and I'm deep into this breaking down of who I am and I'm building with this brother who's challenging my idea of universal Blackness and universal oppression and liberation. That's what's gonna come out in the music. So that's what Third Root ended up being. So we working on our 5th album right now. So it's been 11 years that I've been doing Third Root, and it's been for our goal was it's been highly successful. All we were trying to do is get together and make some like little things that we could like put out for people who are in that world of pedagogy or the liberation. It turned out a lot of people want to hear that around the world. So our merch, our vinyl, our hoodies, our concerts.
I got to get one. Should have brought me one for this interview.
I got you. I got you. We got you.
I'm going to take a picture, so represent Third Root, because
and you came and blessed that. Yeah, you blessed one of our last
Yeah.
projects that we did. And I was like, I might want to ask her if she would like. I didn't know how you would respond to that, And
Yeah, I
you were like,
remember you
no,
told
no,
me
no,
that. You was like, I don't know how. I
Yeah,
didn't know what you was
yeah,
going to
because
say.
the little spot I use out here, I was there today, matter of fact.
Right.
My little spot here is nothing compared to the lavish studios you work out of. So I'm like, she would come over here and be like,
I
boom,
work
boom, boom.
anywhere that's good.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
vibes were right.
Right.
And so we captured a beautiful, beautiful a performance from you that really helped that record. And then even on our next one, you did some stuff.
I was so glad to be a part. I actually really felt like whenever you've asked me to do stuff, I feel without knowing, I'm just now finding everything, finding out who you are in your music, like a powerhouse, And I can't wait for you to, towards the end of the show, you're going to tell everybody how to find you, how to, follow you, and we're going to keep supporting you. But whenever you've ever asked me to do anything, I would just feel like, little old me.
What?
I'm so serious. I'd be like, he think, okay, that's
I'm thinking
nice.
the other way. I'm thinking she's gonna help out this, and I don't. And I was telling her, I talked to the seniors a couple of weeks ago because they asked me to talk to the seniors at the senior brunch.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And I had never all this story I'm telling you. I never tell my students.
Right.
And but I did with this senior class because we have a certain relationship. So at this thing, and there was other teachers that don't notice about me, but I'm pulling out the records, I'm pulling out the books, I'm pulling out the music world. Matthew knows album that he executive produced, and they didn't know that, but I told them that I don't talk about this in the building because I was working on perfecting the art of being an educator and teaching. It don't help me to live in my past, to walk around in the school every day and say, I'm the one that used to have a record.
Yeah.
What that's going to do for those kids, they'll run you out the room because you haven't mastered the art of teaching.
Thank you.
So it's not something I lead with, but I'm more comfortable now that I feel like I'm more comfortable in my craft as an educator. I feel like I can start bringing that in, and it's not on the main stage. It's just just a detail. Of the story,
but that's a good teacher doesn't harp on what they've done, and all that stuff. That was the thing with me in my classes as well. I used to constantly tell them, we're not going to talk about that right now because I want to make sure you have this rigor. I want to make sure you're able to spit back these notes to me. And some of them that were very like pushy might say, okay, well, can you do it? You want us to do it, but can you sing? And I'd be like, again, if I couldn't do anything that I'm telling you, I wouldn't be in this position.
And then you hit them with it later and sit that tear down. And it was crazy. They understood who you work with, where you've worked, and how you've shared your gift. And I'm sure the ones that made it to that point of their relationship with you appreciate that, and to this day probably keep in touch with you.
Oh yeah. I have one coming to see me next Tuesday. My last question to you is, now that you are a father, now that you're experiencing raising a son, I believe you have a daughter as well.
Yeah, she's grown.
How old is she?
She's 27.
Ooh.
I raised her since she was 4. So that's my stepdaughter.
Okay.
Right? But as people say, like, I'm not a stepfather. I'm the father that stepped up. You see what I'm saying? So that's my baby. That's my baby too. And I've support her on her journey. Everybody got their own journey, and I respect it. So that's a whole skill set that's been required to build even trust back with her after her watching me grow up. Because some of these kids watch us grow up.
Yeah.
And that plays a role,
That does. I'm happy you spoke to that, because some parents don't want to admit that that's what I was going through while raising you. Yeah. It wasn't perfect, but speak to the fact that now that you've had, so this is literally your first biological son.
For sure.
And speak to the reality of that and what you are grateful you're going to be able to do for him as his father that you didn't have growing up.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm glad that I'm being blessed with this opportunity as a grown, mature, wise man. So just the patience, the life lessons, the knowing that he has to be reassured and affirmed regularly to know his greatness. The history of our people that I've been able to learn and appreciate and own that I can pass to him.
Yeah.
You know, I tell him every night before he go to bed, you black, you beautiful, you brilliant, you creative, you amazing. Who the man? Me. That's every
Oh
night.
my
That's every night,
goodness.
you know. And so, and he knows the routine. Like he knows I'm gonna go from black to beautiful. Then he's like
Yeah.
brilliant. Like he knows it now.
Yeah.
That kind of, to me, that's the kind of thing that goes a long way. When you got a world that I know is gonna challenge his self, identity and self esteem and who he is. So I just think those things, I'm able to bring those things, and the fact that I put some time into understanding how to educate,
That's right.
not just teach, but like educate people. So I can kind of work with him on that from that side too.
Right, right.
And I just think God set that up. He set that up beautifully. I can't,
Yeah.
because if I had had my boy when I was in my early 20s, I don't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you speak to the fact that now you have the opportunity to just be there to instill in him something that you would have probably loved to hear yourself growing up, I know he's gonna be overly loved, and that's good because you need mushy love between men.
Yeah, yeah.
You need that. There's not enough, and it causes so much pain when they don't have it and they go back into the world trying to find love in all the wrong places, like you shared earlier.
Right.
So kudos to you. Not even kudos, just like well done, you know, because I don't see it often. And maybe that's the charge that God has given me to be a platform so that those that are about to become fathers, those that are running away from it, they can see how it impacted somebody such as yourself, but how even having a spiritual upbringing and having that father figure in that spiritual sense also saved you.
Most
You know what I
definitely.
mean?
Either or.
Either or.
Okay.
So, if you were to,
I feel nervous.
no, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. I'm not gonna do nothing crazy. I'm not gonna ask no crazy questions.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I got one.
All right.
So, if you were offered a record deal right now, like one that really sounds really good and had all the specs to it, except one thing, and that one thing was like the genre of music that you're supposed to be going into, and they said you could either pick between pop or maybe like a bluesy kind of. Which one would you go with?
I mean, I'm blues, you know. Yeah, I'm blues. I don't. I know that off the top.
Yeah. What does pop mean to you?
It's weird though, cause Michael Jackson was pop, and I love Mike.
Yeah.
Prince was popping. I love Prince. Hip hop is pop right now. You know what I'm saying? It's
That
the
is
most
true.
popular music it has become
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I don't have like a negative connotation. I just know that pop music has the expectation of selling. It has the expectation of you always being ready to be the show. And so that's the part that is a little bit anti me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like I come and I move when the vibe's right, when the energy is right. I move
Right.
I move with a flow. And blues, jazz, those are more genres that
Yeah.
that make room for the artist is
To
in
just
control
be,
of
yeah.
the I guess what the presentation is, what the media part of it is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I feel that too. That's why I call myself a soul inspirational singer, because it's got to come from here, or otherwise I feel fake. I don't even feel right. You know, I'm not wearing no, napkin skirt and no thin spaghetti strap coming out here. What am I doing? I look dumb. Y'all just know. Everybody be, oh my God, you look good. No.
You know
I'm
you
not.
know who the Wu-Tang Clan is? They have a little show that's been coming on Hulu. And there was a time when RZA, who was like the maestro of that whole group, who had produced them and had the vision for this big brotherhood. But when he got his first record deal, they put his single out, and for his video, they put him in a top hat and a tuxedo,
Right.
and they had all these women around him, and he was doing this song. But he was from the projects, and he made really grimy music.
Right, right.
But the record label said, this is what we need to sell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he did it, because
Did it
nobody
just to
around
do
him was telling him, that's not how we're going to do it. So he hit his head.
Right.
And got dropped from the label because it wasn't him. You know what I'm saying? So it's only so long you're going to be able to keep that up. So they got dropped. And I'm just telling you this real quick because it kind of goes with what you're saying, the pop versus the blues. So he took that message, that lesson back to his group. And from that point, any record label, any record deal had to be on their terms.
Come on. That's it.
If you think I'm talented enough and you want to invest in me, then you got to trust that I know where I'm going.
Yeah. Especially because you came to me here in this level. And so I didn't need you. Right. You know what I mean? Right. I love it. So are you a indoor plants or garden man?
I can't say I'm either one really. But lately I've been thinking a whole lot about making sure I have more plants in my environment. So I'm going to say indoor plants.
Okay.
I'm going to say indoor plants.
Awesome. Last question. What do you want your son to play when he grows? What sports like? You know, because most men, they're like, yeah, my boy gonna be in football. Nah, he gonna be doing the hoop. He gonna be hooping with his old man. You know, which one is it?
If I had to pick one, I'd say hoops.
I can see you. I
like basketball. I loved basketball growing up, but I'm also really interested in the stuff that I never touched, like soccer and tennis. That kind of stuff. Like I wonder if he would take to any of that, because it's a new day. You know, where I grew up and how I grew up, golf, soccer, tennis, that just wasn't a conversation. You know, it was football, it was basketball, and I would also love for him to play the piano and the guitar. You know, so even if he doesn't do anything like professionally with it, he always has the skill to sit down and get those thoughts and those feelings out through music. You know, if he wants to, just have a piano in his house or whatever.
Yeah.
Or better yet, in these days and times, know how to get on these devices and engineer.
Yes. How can we find you on all social medias and everything?
Yeah. So my IG is Mr. MR _ Easily. So MR _ EASYLEE. My group Third Root is Third Root Music on IG.
And you're saying Third Root.
Yeah, THIRD ROOT music. If you go to the Third Root IG, or if you go to my IG, all that stuff is in the bios.
Okay, cool.
You know, also for my group Mojo, we're working on a new album.
Yes.
We're just not getting back into this digital world, because when we stopped making music, there was no IG and Facebook and all that. So we are at Mojo Family, MOJOE Family, and we're getting that
I'm seeing y'all do a lot.
Up.
You know, I'm seeing y'all do a lot. Like, I love it. Every time I'm messaging him, are you in Atlanta right now? And he's like, yeah, that was last week, or that was last month, or I'm like, dang, you know. So y'all are doing y'all thing. Thank you again. I know we gotta go. I don't want to go, but there's always more time. There's always more time. And again, as I always say, I really want you guys to be a Patreon. If you're considering subscribing or being a partner with me, for My Father Used to Say, asking you to share your business and make it a point to become a patron, so that we can share what it is that you do at the end of every show as part of the commercial to help keep this show running. You have to tune in next week to find out who I am interviewing. And as you always know, I can't tell you all that right now. That's why I need you to tune in next week. Have you subscribed? Have you liked? Have you shared? Please do so, and know that I will see you faithfully here next week on My Father Used to Say. I'm out. Bye. Hey, it better have recorded. Oh my God. Yes, because you see how I got some good skills, but this podcast life It's a whole new
host,
territory.
director, producer,
Amen.
technician,
Amen.
lighting, makeup, wardrobe, refreshments, decor, sound.
Come on. Yes.
All the credits should roll at the end.
I mean, for real. Like, I think I need to consider that. That might be the title of the podcast. Humbling season. My God. About to go in. Okay. Don't be surprised if the screen go blank and
If you see humbling